Hello. Hello. Wonderful. Okay, I'm live here on Facebook. I'm live on Instagram. Let's see if I can manage all this technology at once. I wanted to come on today and talk to you about your brain and, more importantly, integration in your brain and how that can help you as an interpreter, especially right now during times of crisis. So if you're hopping on live, go ahead and give me a wave, say hello. I'm excited to get to see you all here today. So if you don't know me, my name is Bree Cross Caldwell of Brighter Focus Coaching and Burnout Proof Academy. And I teach this specific concept about brain integration, which I have learned from Dr. Daniel J. Siegel, and I'll put a lot of resources in the comments after we're done. But he's a great resource on not only mindfulness, which I love, but neurobiology and how our brains work and how we can better work with our brains. I love to teach this concept to interpreters because it can dramatically alter our ability to attune to ourselves, to regulate our own emotional responses, to attune to our consumers, and to allow us to act with empathy and compassion for them. It can also strongly impact our consumers' ability to regulate their own emotional responses. So this one concept has a really powerful impact on all parts of the interpreting interaction. So that's why I want to share it with you today. Okay, I'm waving. Hello. Okay, so I want to start with showing you this hand model of the brain, okay? This is a super rudimentary, basic rendition of what happens in our brains, okay? So it has three major parts. We've got, I'll start here. This part is called the prefrontal cortex. This is right behind your forehead. This is the most recent addition to the human brain, okay? This is our this is what we've developed more recently. If you open this up and you kind of move down into the brain, this is what's called the limbic area. And we actually have two limbic areas, but we only have one thumb, so we'll use that. So this is the limbic area. Behind that is the brain stem, okay? And that's the oldest part of the brain. You also might hear it referred to as the reptilian brain. So these are the three parts, okay? And I want you to understand what they do and how they work together. So I'm just gonna give you a real quick description of that. So the prefrontal cortex, and this whole top part of the brain is the cortex, that is where we do our higher level thinking. And specifically in the prefrontal cortex, we are able to take in information and we're able to make sense of it, and then we're able to plan our responses to it, which is very human. That's the distinction that makes us human, is this prefrontal cortex. And so this is also responsible for any kind of executive functioning, so planning, organizing, setting goals, understanding my impact on the world, being able to look at something from someone else's perspective, having that awareness of what someone else might be going through. These are all things that are regulated in the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain does not develop, they say, really kind of completely develop until our mid to late 20s, but it in fact continues developing throughout our lives. So we're still working on this, okay? The limbic area is what regulates our emotions and memories. And yeah, I think that's all I'll say about that. Emotions and memories are here. Brainstem is where fight or flight happens. So this part of the brain, this old reptilian part of the brain, is what keeps us safe. That part of the brain is what is needed when we are in danger and we need to respond without thinking. We need to respond automatically and quickly in order to get ourselves out of danger. That's what this brainstem is for, okay? And all of these parts, as you can see, they touch each other. They have connections in here, and there's many more pieces and parts than we're going through here, but the important thing is these three parts, when they are integrated, when they are talking to each other and communicating, that's when we can access all parts. We can really depend on the prefrontal cortex to help us to make good decisions and think through things. Becky, I love you too. Thank you for being here. I know you know this information. Okay, so this is what happens when we're in integration, and what happens when we start to get triggered, when we start to feel stressed, when we start to feel afraid. Maybe you're feeling that right now with what's happening in the world today. We're in a crisis situation. And so we're triggered and we're scared and we don't know what's going to happen. We go into an interpreting interaction, and the topic might be triggering. The way people are talking to each other and their fear might be triggering to us. And what happens when we start to get triggered, what happens when we are afraid or overwhelmed or upset or frustrated, is we start to disconnect here. We get this, the prefrontal cortex is trying to balance what's happening down below. Dr. Siegel calls this the downstairs brain and the upstairs brain. And he says the upstairs brain is trying to keep the downstairs brain balanced. But at a point, and you know this feeling, especially if you're a parent, when you're trying to keep your calm, you're trying to stay cool, you're trying to use your head and think rationally when you're frustrated, and you can just feel yourself holding on by your fingernails, like, oh, I'm gonna stay calm, I'm gonna stay calm. And at some point, you lose it, right? At some point, you let go, and this is what happens. He calls it, you flip your lid, okay? And what happens is your thinking part of your brain is lost. It's offline. It is not accessible. So first of all, to try to place the expectation on yourself that you're going to be able to stay calm, or that you're going to be able to think through something rationally when you're feeling like that, is completely inappropriate to expect that of yourself, okay? So during these times when we're feeling really triggered, it is important to know when you feel this, you cannot make a good decision. We just don't have the capability. What we can do is fight, flight, freeze, okay, or faint. We have these basic animal responses that are designed to keep us safe, and that's what we want to do in that situation. That's all that we want to do. What happens when we're in an interaction with another person, or when we're interpreting, and so we're in the middle of an interaction with people, is if one person in that scenario is disintegrated, if they're in disintegration, this is contagious. So if you think through scenarios that you have been in where someone has been upset, you can feel that pressure on your own nervous system that you might start to get upset at the same time, right? It's disintegration is contagious, okay? What is good news is that integration is also contagious. So as we learn and flex this muscle, as we get better at coming back into integration, we can then be a stable source within that scenario to help other people come back into integration. Okay, and so how do we do this? And I have my notes here just so I don't forget anything that I want to share with you today. So during times of stress, during times of integration, the only thing you need to remember, because you can't remember much when you're in that place, especially when you're trying to interpret, when you're trying to manage the flow of communication, and you're having emotions on top of it, the only thing that you need to remember is to breathe. Okay? And if you need to write that down and put it in front of you as you work, or write it on your hand, or tattoo it somewhere, whatever you need to do to help yourself remember in that moment to breathe. And I'm talking deep, slow belly breathing through your nose, in and out your nose. That is going to signal the nervous system, it's okay. There's not a lion chasing us. We're not in danger. So we take a few deep breaths and our prefrontal cortex starts to come back online. And then we can approach the situation with our full brain. The second thing that I want to encourage you to do is any type of reflective practice, which could be any mindfulness practice, meditation, conscious breathing practices, yoga. Could be as woo-woo as you want it to be. It could be as simple as sitting and breathing and looking at a picture that you enjoy for 5 minutes a day, okay? Any type of reflective practice or contemplative practice actually helps the brain move towards integration and helps to build that muscle of integration. So that's going to be like your practice in between times of actually getting triggered and getting stressed, okay? So when you're feeling like your lid is flipped, when you're feeling this disintegration, I want you to breathe. Okay? I have a few resources for you if you want to practice this. One, if you're not already following me on Instagram, or even if you are, I have a highlight that has several self-care techniques in there that you can use to practice as a reflective practice. Will help you to come back into integration. So check those out. Those are all there. The second is, I'll put a few links in the comments here, but I have a self-care resource page that has lots of ideas for you if you want to integrate a reflective practice into your daily life that can help you with this. Then those resources are all there, and most of them are free and accessible. The third resource for you is a workshop that I have that is online, self-paced. It's called Put on Your Raincoat, Energetic Protection for Sign Language Interpreters. It's 0.5 CEUs, so it's pretty short, but it has, as part of it, built in, you do a reflective practice for a week. So if you want to make this a habit, that's a way to do it and get CEUs. And I'll put the link in the comments too. If this video is helpful to you, then please like it, share it, comment on it. I want to know what you do to help you flex this integration muscle, because this is something that we never stop doing. You know, even if you're working out, you don't get to a certain point and say, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm just going to stop working out for the rest of my life. It doesn't work that way. So this is a constant. This is a forever practice of how do I help my brain come back into connection with itself. Thank you so much for being here today. Take good care. Love to you all.